Well, good morning, folks. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana weather. It's about 7:12 a.m. now here on Thursday morning on Halloween, the day of this potential severe weather. I don't want to call it an outbreak, maybe an event. It's looking like we may have some limiting factors today, but we'll have to see. We definitely are still under a risk, but thankfully the SPC has downgraded our risk just a little bit. Here's the current risk map. We are still under a slight risk for severe weather, but you remember yesterday the graphic I posted had a 30% risk all the way through pretty much most of us. But the slight risk only extended up to northern Indiana and was a 15. If you look at the current risk map, I haven't generated a new one of these yet. I may need to do that for the page. But the 15% risk now encompasses a much broader swath. The entire state is under it now. But they have also removed the 30% risk, and now everybody's just at a general 15% risk. So that is an encouraging sign, but nonetheless, this is a situation that we do want to take seriously. We don't want to make light of this and say, well, it couldn't happen. And here's the reason why. Hail risk, they are saying we don't really have a hail risk. I would agree with that. These are going to be very much low-top storms. They have given us a 2% risk for a tornado, and again, that's a fairly low risk. That's the lowest risk that they will issue for. But at least it's not a 5 or 10% risk like we were thinking that it possibly could have been if everything had lined up just 100% perfectly. This will be a day that sunshine is not our friend. If we get any sunshine today, it's only going to add to the fuel for the environment. So that's something that we'll have to monitor today to see whether indeed we get any breaks in the sunshine or not. Out there right now, here at 7 a.m., we've already got some scattered showers, and these will continue on really throughout the day. But we do have some breaks in the action right now, but that won't stay that way for long. So let me show you a few future radar views just to kind of give you a picture of what to expect for the day, and then we'll start to talk about timing. We put this into motion. Here we are at 8 a.m. and you can see, yeah, we do have some rain free right now, but it pictures a pretty big swath of rain moving our way. You put this into motion and you can see that we're going to be in rain. This is the 4-kilometer NAM, the high resolution NAM. Usually does a decent job, but sometimes it can overplay things. So that's why we have multiple future radars that we'll look at. And you can see, though, by 1 p.m. we've still had some pretty heavy rains over the area. But you're starting to see a little bit of a back edge of it by 2 p.m. Here's 3 p.m. Here's 4 p.m. And you notice that by 4 p.m., southwest Indiana is starting to get a break in the action, at least according to this future radar. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. It could be a good thing, which could allow some trick-or-treating tonight, potentially. But even with that, I do want to make sure that we note, even with that, I do want to make sure that we note very clearly that it's going to be very windy today. So even though we may get a break in the action where trick-or-treating could take place, we're talking winds, sustained winds of at least 20 miles an hour at times later this afternoon. And it wouldn't surprise me to see gusts up to 30, 40 miles per hour. For that reason, the parts of our area are underneath of a wind advisory starting at 4 p.m. this afternoon. So take that into consideration. Many places are doing trick-or-treating on Friday night as well. That may be your better option to do, folks. And I would encourage you to do that. Unless you can find something indoors where you've got a safe shelter. But nonetheless, if you are going, it does look right now that maybe, just maybe, this particular radar shows a little bit of a break in the action. And you can see we get that break in the action with just some scattered stuff for a while. Here's 6 o'clock, but notice what's forming out to our west. And if I just back it up a little bit, you start to see this very thin line right here forming. And that is because you have a deepening low pressure system. The low pressure right now is roughly over this area, and it is going to very quickly today move up this way. As it does, it's going to drag a cold front with it, and what you're seeing right here in that little narrow band is some showers that are just barely ahead of the cold front, really some thunderstorms. And this particular band of thunderstorms right here is what I would be concerned about for severe weather tonight, especially if we do get a break in the action ahead of time like this, that's the chance where we could thin out maybe a little bit of those clouds. And some models wanted to indicate that yes, maybe in between this break in action, we might just get at least a few peaks. Apologies there, I paused the recording without realizing what I was doing. It's still early. But as I was saying, this could be a bad thing that we end up getting a break in the action from the rain. Not because we don't want the flooding, but if we get any clouds moving out and just the slightest little hint of sunshine in this afternoon, and we could be in some trouble as far as these things go. But nonetheless, we get a very strong line moving in, and it knocks on our doorstep here at 8 p.m. By 9 p.m., here's 10. And by 11 p.m. it's starting to roll out of the area. By midnight, it is all over with as far as we are concerned, according to the 4-kilometer NAM anyway. So let's take a look at a couple more. Here is what the high-resolution rapid refresh model says. And this one actually updates multiple times per day rather than just 3 or 4 times like some of the other models. This is one of those hourly models that update. So we'll have better updates for this throughout the day. But let me refresh this thing to get the loop working properly again. Sometimes when it's been set in a while, it just gets out of memory. But here you can see by the morning we start to see that big plume. Here's 10 a.m. We go through the motions. Here's 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. But notice this little line of storms again setting up out to our west. 5 p.m. Here's 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and that's as far as the radar goes out right now is 7 p.m. But the high resolution rapid refresh, HRRR, is the highest resolution model that we have, and oftentimes what I rely on to get your highest resolution picture of what could be. And notice on this, let me just kind of zoom in on this maybe a little bit for you, and you notice it's got a pretty healthy line of thunderstorms developing along this. So that's something for sure that we are going to want to take a strong, keep an eye on, a lookout for. If this ends up developing, this could be some cause for concern. So the more scattered apart the storms are, that would probably be the better thing today. But whenever they start to get organized in a strong-looking line like this, that's whenever we have some cause for concern. So we'll just have to see what the radars show tonight. But again, you can see here, according to, if you take, excuse me, my apologies, I'm fighting a cold here this morning. It's always worse in the morning. If you take the 4-kilometer NAM, as far as what it's showing, it doesn't bring this line starting through us until closer to 9 p.m. And here is 7 p.m. when the line's knocking on our doorstep. So all that to say, the HRRR model may just be a little bit faster in time than what the 4-kilometer NAM is. Let's switch over and look at the NMM, and just to give you an idea, like I said, I wanted to take you through multiple future radar views, but you get this general picture that we are going to have. Here we are, 10 a.m. on Thursday. This brings the rain in a little bit later in the day than some of the others do. Brings in more scattered nature. By the time 8 p.m. sets up, you notice you've got a little bit of a line trying to form to our west. But with this particular model, it's 11 p.m. here, and you've got a little bit of a line forming down here. So this model is certainly much later than the others, and I'm not sure I would believe that. Let's take a look at the ARW. Also another one that I rely on heavily whenever I'm looking at things, because it seems to have a pretty decent handle on things sometimes. So you can see here we are at 2 p.m. and we've got rain showers over the area. It brings it in a very similar fashion to the others. But here's another concerning thing, and you see this very narrow band of red convection set up. And so you've got pretty much a decent little squall line forming up on this one too. And this one is at 18 EDT, so that would be 6 o'clock. So by 6 o'clock, according to the ARW, this thing could be rolling into our area, and then very quickly moves out after that. And then you just get a few leftover showers and remnants after that. So, and the other thing that concerns me on this is you notice how much quicker it is bowing in our state than it is down here in Kentucky. And let me just kind of put that into motion a little bit. It starts off on pretty much an even keel here at 4 o'clock, but then the part in Indiana rapidly accelerates. More than that. The reason it would rapidly accelerate is because it's starting to bow more, because that would be a severe line of thunderstorms. A severe wind line of thunderstorms pushes storms on faster than lines that aren't. So the ARW seems to indicate to me that we could be having some severe weather along with this one, and not as severe down in Kentucky. That's one radar's interpretation, and it's just something we'll have to see. So that gives you at least an idea of what to expect today as far as multiple radar views are concerned. As far as upper level dynamics, they're still in play. Let me just, here I was looking at the models earlier, let me back this up to get an idea of where we're at. Here's about 8 p.m. tonight, which would be reasonably close to the time frame that things will be moving through. I think, as far as, for danger zone, let me just kind of time this out for you. I think danger zone will be any time after 6 p.m. I think prior to that, it could be adjusted up earlier, but really I think anytime after 6 p.m. is when the line would roll through, sometime to 10 p.m. It depends on how fast the line rolls through and a number of other things. So really I think from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time is our greatest time of concern tonight. And it could potentially slow down beyond that. Right now you have the low pressure centered over here. The low pressure is centered to come over here, and it's going to deepen as it goes. And by deepening, it starts at about 1,001 millibars down here, and you notice it's 992 millibars by the time it gets up here. That's rapid deepening. Well, as the cold front gets drug along as it moves up this way, and the cold front's tilted like this, it's still going to stay tilted, but as the low deepens, the low isn't going to go like this, which you might expect. Because low pressures wrap around in a manner like this, once they deepen, it means they're starting to spin faster. That's going to have a tendency to pull these low pressures poleward towards the North Pole more. And so that's why you see a bit of a curvature coming up like this. That's going to slow the cold front down. So it's possible that we actually could see, a later on time today where this line ends up slowing down a little bit. We'll continue to monitor that through the day, but right now 6 to 10 p.m. from the way I'm seeing things looks like a pretty good bet. Plenty of fuel for these. As far as moisture is concerned, 65 dew points by that time, according to this. Again, if you take a look at your wind speeds, they are absolutely incredible. You're still talking about 120 knot jet stream winds over us. Low-level jet stream, we are still talking about 60, 70 knots. But by the time the line is getting to us, the very worst of the low-level jet is past us, and that's a good thing. You're still dealing with 30 to 40 knot winds by then, so that's still concerning. And winds at the 925 millibar level, you're still dealing with 40 to 50 knot winds down fairly close to the surface, a couple thousand feet up. So there's still some pretty powerful wind energy that these things can mix in. This is something we definitely don't want to take lightly. And as far as surface winds are concerned, it's still going to be windy. You're looking at least 15 or 20 miles an hour sustained winds at that time, according to this particular model run. Instability-wise, we do see a little bit of instability showing up on the NAM model now, and a little bit more out to our west where this particular line is, but we've got a little bit showing up. And again, any sunlight today that we would get is only going to increase that fuel more. So all I can say at this point is this is not something that we want to freak out about, but we do want to be weather aware today. Will we go underneath of a severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch tonight? Maybe. I don't know that. It wouldn't surprise me to see us given the parameters that we've got in play. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a few warnings out of this tonight. Is this going to be a epic event, March 2nd, 2012 type, like hit Henryville? No, probably not. But you remember back on October 5th of this month, we had some severe weather that just struck in a snap of a finger on that first Saturday in October at the night. And it could be another situation like this where it really sneaks up and surprises people. So We'll just have to see how it goes. I'll be here throughout the day providing updates to the Facebook page, so make sure to stay in tune. I'll be out at my mechanics earlier in the day, and I'll update some things by the phone, but I'll be back to track the storms in plenty of time tonight. For Southern Indiana Weather, I'm Meteorologist Michael Wilhite. More updates to come. Stay tuned, folks. Have a great